Imagine a medical marvel. A pill that goes into your body, completely neutralizes a dangerous virus, and basically does exactly what the world's top molecular biologists designed it to do.
Right. A total success on a molecular level.
Exactly. But here's the catch. It makes absolutely no difference to your health.
Yeah, it's a wild concept.
It really is. And that is the puzzle we are solving for you today. Welcome to the Deep Dive. We've got a highly specific, brand new piece of medical literature straight from the New England Journal of Medicine, or NEJM.
And, the study takes what we thought we knew about treating respiratory illnesses and just flips it entirely on its head.
Yeah, it does. Our mission today is to cut through all the dense clinical jargon and figure out what this actually means for, everyday health decisions.
Right, because we're looking at a massive, comprehensive evaluation of the antiviral combination Nirmatrelvir-Ritonavir.
And specifically how it performs in today's world, like with our current immunological landscape. Because you probably remember when these antivirals were first announced, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Hmm.
They were absolute game changers. I mean, early in the pandemic, if someone was high risk, this was the cavalry coming over the hill.
Exactly. But this new study asks a really crucial, updated question. Like, do these drugs actually help people who are already vaccinated or, who have natural immunity from a prior infection?
Which is a very different scenario than 2020.
Right. And we really want to focus on this so you can avoid information overload and get straight to the facts that could impact how we treat illness today.
Yeah, so to appreciate why this study is so critical, we kind of have to look at the mechanics of the drug itself, like how it interacts with the human immune system.
Okay, let's unpack this, because I've got an analogy that I think helps.
Let's hear it.
It's like testing how well a raincoat works, right? We know a raincoat keeps you dry if you're standing in a hurricane with literally no other protection.
Sure.
But this study is essentially asking, what if you're already standing under a sturdy gazebo? Does the raincoat actually add any meaningful protection at that point?
I love that analogy. Yeah, that's exactly it, because as the baseline immunity of the population changed, as we built those gazebos, so to speak, science had to reevaluate the tools we were using.
Right, because early on, our immune systems were completely naive. We were standing in the hurricane.
Exactly. So if the virus got in, it would replicate out of control. Now, Nirmatrelvir, which is the main part of this drug, is a protease inhibitor.
And a protease is like a pair of molecular scissors.
Yeah, basically. The virus prints these long strings of proteins that are useless until the protease cuts them into functional pieces. Nirmatrelvir just gums up those scissors.
So the assembly line just jams.
Exactly. The virus can't replicate.
Yeah.
But Nirmatrelvir gets broken down by your liver super fast, like before it can even do its job.
Which is why they add Ritonavir.
Right. Ritonavir is just the bodyguard. It shuts down the liver enzyme that would normally flush the medication out.
So it keeps the main drug circulating. That is so clever.
It's brilliant chemistry. But again, that shift in baseline immunity changes everything. We've had massive global vaccination campaigns, wave after wave of natural infections.
They all have the gazebos now.
Right. The vast majority of the population has profound immunological defenses. We have, memory B cells ready to pump out antibodies and T cells acting like internal security guards.
So the question is, if the security guards are already patrolling the building, does sending in the antiviral police actually help?
Exactly. And to answer that, the researchers didn't just guess. They set up 2 massive open-label platform trials.
Okay, so let's get into the how of this. How do you test the raincoat under a gazebo theory?
Well, they ran Panoramic in the United Kingdom and Can Treat COVID in Canada, and these were open-label platform trials, meaning there was no placebo.
Right, so the patients and the doctors knew exactly who was getting the drug and who was just getting normal symptom care.
Yeah. And platform trial means it's continuous. They don't just test one thing and stop. They can evaluate treatment simultaneously over a long period. In this case, between December 8th, 2021 and September 30th, 2024.
Wow, so almost 3 years of data.
Yeah, it's very impressive. And they were super specific about who they included. We were talking about adults in the community considered higher risk.
Okay, and just so you know exactly who this applies to, higher risk meant people 50 years of age or older, right?
Yes, or 18 and older if they had specific coexisting conditions.
Like asthma, diabetes, things like that.
Exactly. And crucially, they had to have tested positive for SARS-CoV-2, and they had to have been unwell for 5 days or less.
Which makes sense, because if you wait too long, the virus is already replicated and the factory's closed anyway, the damage is done.
Right, you have to strike early. So the participants were randomly assigned, Half got usual care, and half got usual care plus a twice-daily dose of Nirmatrelvir and Ritonavir for 5 days.
That's a 300 milligram dose of Nirmatrelvir and 100 milligrams of Ritonavir, just to be precise.
Correct. And the ultimate finish line, what we call the primary outcome, was tracking whether these folks were hospitalized or died from any cause within 28 days.
Okay, wait. I have to ask a clarifying question here for the listener. Why a 28-day window? And why any cause? Like if someone gets hit by a bus on day 20, does that count?
That's a really good question. So 28 days captures the entire acute phase of a COVID infection and its immediate aftermath. If things are going to go badly with the virus, it usually happens in that window.
Okay, makes sense. And the any cause part.
Tracking any cause ensures that all severe outcomes are logged objectively. If you only track COVID-specific hospitalizations, you get into weird subjective debates like, was this heart attack caused by the virus or not?
Oh, I see.
Yeah, it prevents researchers from cherry-picking data. By tracking all causes, the data becomes rock solid. The statistical noise balances out evenly between the two huge groups.
Okay, so we have the rules of the game. We know who is playing. Did the drug actually keep these vaccinated higher-risk people out of the hospital?
Well, let's look at the numbers.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Let's start with that massive panoramic trial out of the UK.
So out of 3,516 randomized participants, the results were incredibly close and honestly completely counterintuitive.
Yeah, it's wild. So in the group taking the medication, 14 out of 1,698 people ended up hospitalized or died.
It's about 0.8%.
Right. But in the usual care group, the people who just wrote it out with soup and rest, only 11 out of 1,673 people were hospitalized or died.
That's 0.7%.
I mean, let that sink in. The group taking the advanced antiviral actually had a slightly higher raw percentage of severe outcomes.
Yeah, though statistically speaking, the researchers emphasize that it's essentially a tie. That tiny variance is well within the margin of error.
But it's definitely not the slam dunk reduction we saw in 2020.
Not at all. Now, if we look at the Can Treat COVID trial in Canada, that gives us a more complete picture. It was smaller, with 716 participants.
And how did those numbers shake out?
In the medication group, 2 out of 343 people, so 0.6%, were hospitalized or died, compared to 4 out of 324 in the usual care group.
Okay, which is 1.2%. So in Canada, the drug looked a little bit better. It technically halved the hospitalization.
It did, yes. But what's fascinating here is how you synthesize this data. Despite that slight variance between the UK and Canadian numbers, the overarching conclusion across both of these trials is totally clear.
Right.
Nirmatrelvir-Ritonavir did not reduce the incidence of hospitalization or death among vaccinated higher-risk participants.
And I want to highlight an incredible detail here that's kind of hidden in plain sight. Look at how incredibly low those hospitalization rates were across the board.
Yeah, they really are.
We were talking about around 1% or less, whether they took the drug or not.
Exactly.
The vaccine and the prior immunity, the gazebo, was already doing so much heavy lifting that the antiviral just barely had any room to improve things. Almost everyone recovered either way.
Yeah, their bodies already knew how to fight it off before it could cause severe organ damage.
But wait, if the drug didn't stop hospitalizations in this group, it makes you wonder, is the drug just a dud now? Like, has the virus mutated so much that the mechanism is broken? Does it even do anything at all?
That is exactly what a logical person would ask, and it leads perfectly into the virologic sub-study results that they included in the paper.
Oh, this is the part I found so interesting.
Yeah. So in a smaller sub-study of 634 participants, the researchers didn't just track hospital visits, they swabbed them and checked the actual physical amount of virus in the patient's bodies over time.
The viral load.
Yes, and the finding. The viral load was significantly reduced by the end of the treatment with Nirmatrelvir-Ritonavir compared to the usual care group.
Wait, so what does this all mean? If the drug successfully knocks out the virus in my body, why aren't fewer people going to the hospital?
It's a huge paradox, right? If we connect this to the bigger picture, it comes down to the difference between a biological marker and a clinical outcome.
Okay, break that down for me.
A biological marker is what we can measure in a lab, like how much viral RNA is in your nasal cavity. A clinical outcome is how you actually feel. Do your lungs fail? Do you need oxygen? Do you go to the hospital?
Right.
The drug does exactly what it's chemically designed to do. It stops the virus from replicating. It lowers the biological marker.
Okay.
But because these patients were already vaccinated or had prior infections, their immune systems were already primed. Their T cells were already preventing the virus from disseminating deep into the lungs.
So the body was already preventing the clinical outcome.
Exactly. So giving the drug lowered the virus in their nose faster, but it didn't change the fact that they weren't going to the hospital anyway. It was chemically successful, but clinically redundant.
That makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
But I do want to make sure you have the full safety picture here too, because if people are taking a drug they might not strictly need, is it hurting them?
Right. Safety is always paramount.
And the data shows serious adverse events were very rare. I think there were only 9 reported in that massive UK trial, and only 4 in the Canadian trial.
Yeah, those numbers are incredibly low.
So the issue isn't that this drug is highly dangerous. It's just that for this specific group of vaccinated people, it didn't really change the ultimate outcome. Why take a 5-day course of pills and deal with the metallic taste it can cause, or the drug interactions with the Ritonavir if your body already has it handled?
Precisely. It's about avoiding unnecessary medication when your immune system is already winning the fight.
Which is actually great news, if you think about it.
It really is.
So, to quickly recap the journey here for you, Nirmatrelvir Ritonavir is absolutely still a proven, vital tool for the unvaccinated or anyone severely immunocompromised.
Oh, absolutely. If you don't have the gazebo, you need the raincoat.
Yes. And we know from the sub-study that it does successfully lower viral load.
It does.
But based on this incredibly rigorous multi-year data from the UK and Canada, for higher-risk outpatients who are vaccinated or naturally immune, taking this 5-day antiviral course did not reduce the already low chances of hospitalization or death.
It's a really clear conclusion from the data.
It is. But it does leave us with a bit of a philosophical puzzle.
Yeah, it really does. And I want to leave you with this lingering thought because this study's paradox is fascinating.
Go for it.
If a drug successfully reduces the viral load in your body, it does exactly what it was engineered to do, but that reduction doesn't actually change how sick you get or whether you end up in the hospital. How should we think about the concept of treating a virus?
Wow. Yeah.
I mean, moving forward in an era where most of us have this high baseline immunity, are we just treating the numbers on a lab test? Or are we treating the human being? It really challenges what a successful medication means today.
That is such a fascinating way to look at it. Treating the numbers versus treating the person. Well, thank you so much for exploring that with us today.
Always a pleasure.
And thank you for sharing this fascinating research and joining us on this deep dive. Stay curious, keep asking the hard questions, and we will catch you on the next one.